In the pre-dawn hours over Caracas, the world was shaken by an unprecedented military action. United States Special Forces, in a swift and dramatic operation, captured Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro from his fortified residence. The mission concluded with Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, being transported to New York to face grave criminal charges, including narco terrorism and crimes against humanity. Shortly after, President Trump made a stunning announcement from the United States, declaring that America was now effectively in charge of Venezuela. He stated this extraordinary level of control would persist until a stable and democratic transition of power could be guaranteed for the crisis-stricken nation. This move sent shockwaves across the globe, signaling a new and aggressive chapter in United States foreign policy. The raid itself was a spectacle of military force, carried out by the elite Delta Force operators. Residents of Caracas were jolted from their sleep by the sounds of explosions and the sight of helicopters swarming the sky, followed by widespread power outages that plunged the city into darkness and confusion. United States forces met significant resistance from Maduro's personal security detail, a loyal guard unit trained to protect him at all costs. The ensuing firefight was intense, but the American troops successfully breached the compound and secured their target. The operation, while a tactical success for the United States, resulted in dozens of casualties, including members of Maduro's guard and several Cuban military advisors present at the scene. Remarkably, no American casualties were reported. In the immediate aftermath of the capture, a power vacuum and profound uncertainty gripped Venezuela. The country's Supreme Court, a body widely seen as loyal to the Maduro regime, hastily appointed Vice President Delcy Rodriguez as the acting leader. In her first address to the nation, she vehemently condemned the United States' action, labeling it a barbaric kidnapping and an illegal act of imperialist aggression against a sovereign state. Her words were quickly followed by a public declaration from the top commanders of the Venezuelan military, who pledged their unwavering loyalty to her new government. This created a tense and dangerous standoff, pitting the newly installed Venezuelan leadership against the United States in a crisis that the entire world was now watching with bated breath. The initial hours after the raid left the Venezuelan populace in a state of shock and disbelief. For years, the country had been mired in economic collapse, political turmoil, and a humanitarian crisis, but the forceful removal of its head of state by a foreign power was an event few could have imagined. On the streets of Caracas and other cities, reactions were starkly divided. Some citizens, exhausted by years of hardship under Maduro's rule, cautiously celebrated in private, seeing a glimmer of hope for change. Others reacted with fear and anger, viewing the United States intervention as a humiliating violation of their national sovereignty. The future of the nation, its people, and its vast oil reserves now hangs precariously in the balance. The audacious mission to capture President Maduro, codenamed Operation Absolute Resolve, was not a spontaneous act, but the culmination of months of meticulous and clandestine planning. United States intelligence agencies, including the CIA and DIA, had dedicated extensive resources to monitoring every facet of Maduro's life. Operatives and assets on the ground gathered a treasure trove of information, detailing his daily routines, travel patterns, communication methods, and even the layout of his various safe houses. This granular intelligence was the bedrock of the operation, allowing military planners to anticipate and counter potential obstacles. To ensure flawless execution, the mission was rehearsed repeatedly on a full-scale replica of Maduro's compound, built secretly at a United States training facility, preparing the assault team for every conceivable contingency. The final authorization for the high-stakes operation came directly from President Trump. He reportedly watched the mission unfold in real time from a command center at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, surrounded by his top military advisors and key cabinet members. The scale of the assault was immense, designed to overwhelm any resistance with speed and superior firepower. A formidable force of over 150 aircraft was mobilized, a fleet that included media, stealth bombers in flight, B-2, Spirit aircraft at night, stealth aircraft on runway, stealth bombers to neutralize air defenses, fighter jets to provide air superiority, and a host of gunships, drones, and electronic warfare planes to support the ground troops. This massive deployment underscored the high priority the administration placed on the operation's success and its willingness to commit significant military assets to achieve its objective. The execution of the raid was a textbook example of modern special operations. Under the cloak of darkness, Delta Force operators stormed the compound with surgical precision, using advanced breaching tools and tactics to bypass layers of security. Their efforts were reportedly aided by a high-level CIA source within Maduro's inner circle, who provided critical last-minute intelligence that helped the United States forces pinpoint Maduro's exact location within the complex. Despite the careful planning, the operation was far from sterile. The ensuing firefight was brutal and chaotic, resulting in the deaths of numerous members of Maduro's security forces and several civilians caught in the crossfire, a grim testament to the violent reality of such a direct military intervention on foreign soil. The technological and human intelligence components were key to the operation's success. United States agencies had successfully infiltrated communication networks used by Maduro's government, allowing them to monitor discussions and reactions in real time as the raid began. This provided a crucial advantage, enabling commanders to adapt their strategy as the situation evolved on the ground. The capture of Maduro and his wife was swift, but the extraction was a tense affair, with United States helicopters flying low and fast out of Venezuelan airspace under the protection of fighter jets. The successful completion of Operation Absolute Resolve marked a watershed moment, demonstrating the formidable reach and capability of the United States military intelligence apparatus, while at the same time igniting a firestorm of global controversy. In the wake of Maduro's forcible removal, Venezuela was plunged into a state of profound uncertainty, its future hanging precariously in the balance. The United States government quickly pledged to support the nation's recovery, promising substantial aid to help rebuild its shattered economy and crumbling infrastructure, which had deteriorated after years of mismanagement and crisis. However, these promises were met with a complex reality on the ground. Venezuelan opposition leaders, many of whom had been persecuted under Maduro, were cautiously optimistic but also demanding. Their immediate calls for the release of all political prisoners and the swift scheduling of free and fair presidential elections put immense pressure on both the remaining Venezuelan authorities and the United States forces now present in the country. The Venezuelan people responded to the news with a volatile mix of emotions, reflecting the deep divisions that have long defined the nation's politics. In some neighborhoods, spontaneous demonstrations erupted, with some citizens expressing hope that Maduro's ouster would finally end their suffering and usher in an era of democracy and prosperity. However, these scenes of jubilation were contrasted by expressions of fear and outrage elsewhere. Many Venezuelans, regardless of their political leanings, were deeply unsettled by the presence of a foreign military power on their soil. They worried about a prolonged occupation, further instability, and the potential for the nation to become a pawn in a larger geopolitical conflict, their national pride wounded by the intervention. The newly appointed acting government led by Delcy Rodriguez found itself in an almost impossible position. It was tasked with navigating an unprecedented political crisis while facing down the military might of the United States. Its primary challenge was to consolidate power and maintain the loyalty of the armed forces, a critical factor for stability. The military's public pledge of allegiance to Rodriguez was a significant first step, but it also set the stage for a potential armed confrontation with United States troops if diplomatic solutions failed. The world watched nervously, wondering if a peaceful transition was possible or if Venezuela was on the brink of descending into a full-blown civil war fueled by foreign intervention. As the days turned into weeks, the initial shock began to give way to the harsh realities of a nation in limbo. The United States began airlifting humanitarian aid, but the logistics were complicated by the fractured political landscape. Access to food, medicine, and basic services remained a critical issue for millions of Venezuelans. Opposition factions began jockeying for position, each hoping to shape the country's political future, while remnants of the Maduro regime worked in the shadows to resist the new reality. The United States intervention had decapitated the government, but it had not solved the underlying problems. Instead, it had created a new and dangerously unpredictable chapter for Venezuela. The United States military operation to capture Nicolás Maduro triggered an immediate and sharp divide across the international community. The action was met with swift and unequivocal condemnation from several powerful nations. Governments in China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea were among the most vocal critics, denouncing the raid as a flagrant and unacceptable violation of international law and a direct assault on the core principle of national sovereignty. These countries framed the U.S. intervention as a dangerous act of imperialism that threatened to destabilize global order. They called for the immediate release of Maduro and demanded that the United Nations take action to censure the United States for its aggression, warning that it set a perilous precedent for international relations. In contrast, the reaction among U.S. allies and within the Venezuelan opposition was far more fragmented and cautious. While some international partners privately expressed relief at the removal of a leader they viewed as a corrupt dictator, they publicly voiced deep concerns about the methods used. Governments in Europe and Latin America worried about the long-term consequences of such a unilateral and forceful intervention, fearing it could legitimize similar actions by other world powers in the future. The United Nations Security Council was called into an emergency session, where diplomats engaged in heated debates.